Yeah, yeah. MD, JPB. It's only right, baby.
Yeah, why you mad? I got a bad bro. Name hot in these streets, no Tabasco. But I'm so stuck, that's a fact, yo. And if you think I'm frontin', you can run it back, yo. Go run it back. You know that I run it. Everything you wanna do, I already done it. And I got your little boo telling me she love me. I got this one down, but damn, it's gonna be a long night.
Hello guys, what is up? It is me, Prince of Edifs, and I hope you guys are ready for today's video, as I am doing the special, which you all will not stop, asking me about. What if Asta had Gilgamesh's powers? Now, I don't know why you guys are so obsessed with this, but now I'm gonna do it. So, chill out. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, do all of that, and most importantly, enjoy yourself, because I want you to be chill. Hopefully my voice doesn't ruin this. I've been told in the last video, whatever the last video was, that I apparently got a more raspier voice and you guys could barely recognize me. If my voice is still raspy right now, I can guarantee you I'm completely fine. I don't know why that is, but I just need to take some cough medicine. I barely noticed it because I'm just talking. So, I hope it doesn't bother y'all. Alright, let's begin, Sit back, get some food. I usually eat a lot of food while watching literally anything, so feel free to do the same. Alright, let's go. On a certain day, Father Saussy hears a knock at his door and opens it to find two different separate cribs. Ah, what pitiful children, he would say, as he brings in the kids and puts them down on a table, and as he looks at them, while with the black hair is quiet, Asta, while also being quiet, had a bit of a smirk across his face. He would then check the basket of and see his name on a piece of paper and a pendant next to him, and Asta had blonde hair this time, and he was wrapped up in some quite expensive looking sheets. Is that gold? Saussy would say, as he takes out the blanket and he finds Asta has a pendant as well, and it has a red gem while on the outside it is made of pure gold. Saussy is in shock, wondering if either of them were the nobles, but regardless, he takes in the boys and starts raising them. As Asta grows, he already shows signs of magical talent at the age of just 3, being able to levitate off the ground and mess with Sister Lily Saussy as well as and while having a playful personality, Asta also could be calm and collective, making his intellect kind of be masked by this arrogant facade. Asta is smart, he just doesn't really care about it that much. He's more so smart in fighting, but that'll show later. And it is the same, except he's not genius, like he's just the best thing that has ever happened. He can also be calm, but he's also just more whiny. And he also develops his magic later than Asta. And after turning 4, Asta learns to open a gate, the Gate of Babylon, which allows him to shoot out a light beam and take out weapons. And this was dangerous, so Sister said not to, use his weapons yet. Time skip to 2 years later, Asta has started to control his power more, and he will be walking around, just people are around him are just, farming, and he summons a gate, and out of it comes a hilt of what he thought was a lance, but as he grabs and pulls it out, he sees it is a giant axe. Wow, you're shiny, huh? Whoa, Asta, be careful with that one of the villagers would say. As Asta would say, don't worry, it's fine. He would then put away the axe, thinking that was the 20th weapon he had found so far, and he was feeling pretty happy and proud of himself. When he makes it home, he then sees helping Sister Lily do laundry, and he would ask if they needed help. Oh yes, where were you? Sister Lily would ask. Asta would then summon his gate from behind and pull out his axe, saying, I was trying out more weapons. 4 gates then activate around him, releasing a large blade, a big spear, a dagger, a rapier, and a bow, surprising Lily and when they see he can summon more than 1 gate now. See, it was important. Okay, let me help. He then comes over and makes the axe in his hand disappear, and he takes some of the laundry with exclaiming he is impressed, and he would say, that's so cool, your gate magic is awesome. Asta would then say, don't down yourself so much, your wind magic's pretty awesome too. Lily would then say, alright boys, follow me, let's get this over with. Okay sister, the two would say, as they go to the backyard, and they would start cleaning and while doing laundry, and using Lily's magic they wash everything, and then would slightly dry everything with his wind magic, while Asta basically just make sure that nothing dropped. And he also flew up the clothes on a line so they could just hang there and dry. And when they were done with all this, the two would basically just hang out, play until night falls and it starts to snow. Orsi then sends Asta on an errand, and he goes and heads out on, on his own, not with Yuno. And he delivers what he has to deliver, and he starts going back when someone would block his path on the way. Oh, sorry, Asta would say, as he goes to move out of the way, but the man stands in front of him again, just as he would go to kick him, but Asta would jump back while landing gracefully. Okay, the hell do you want? That little pendant around your neck. I want it. Well, tough shit, man. I'm not paying for your booze. Asta could basically smell the beer, like this guy drank all of it, and it angers a man to be, insulted by a child, and he would run at him reaching for the pendant. And in this instant, Asta gets so pissed as this is when the man be blinded by light, and he stops to see he is now surrounded by golden portals. Magic? You're just a kid. Out of the portals then shoot out chains, which would grab and slightly burn while restraining him, but Asta would say to shut up, and he does so out of fear as he realizes this kid is not normal. It burns. I'm sorry, I'll never talk to you again, just let me go. Asta, as he looks at this man, then looks around, seeing no one was around, and he sensed no mages coming, so his calm look turns to a sadistic smile. Sorry, you're out of luck. The man is then gouged from the back as blood spews from his mouth, and as he looks down, he has a sword through his heart coming from his back. This kills him instantly as the weapon would then fade away, and as with the chains, and the gates would disappear as he falls over with his blood just spreading through the snow. A place like this doesn't need a bastard like you. He would then grab and drag him away before then throwing him somewhere in the forest, and he returned home like nothing happened. And as he's actually going back home, he looks at his pendant and would open the gate, which he throws it in, and it actually, works to his surprise. That can sort things too. Just like spatula magic, he would say. Then he hopes something like this never has to happen again and goes home, and we are going to have another time skip. 9 years pass with Asta still wanting to become Wizard King and become Magic Knights, but while Asta does have a desire to help his family, he also feels it is his duty to just become a Wizard King and be a leader. Truth be told, he's a great leader. His voice commands respect. He's an ideal ruler. And yeah, they're pretty set on it. So Yuno's magic gets more powerful, a little bit stronger than the original, but he still keeps that kind of same power level. He still needs his Grimoire to do more. But Asta is an absolute genius. He can now summon up to 100 gates with ease and can make them appear out of nowhere and almost anywhere. From behind you, like behind him, it doesn't matter. He can now discharge yellow lightning bolts as well as light beams. Additionally, his chains can also now be used for combat. And the pointed ends, actually he has, the chains have pointed ends, if I forgot to add, just like how Gilgamesh has. And they can rip through an enemy. Like, they're super strong. And he also gets faster, stronger physically. And most of the time, he doesn't usually need to fight with actual magic because he basically has like a bunch of weapons he can use. And he's practiced to use some of them and learn to use his weapons in some way. He's not a master or anything, but he can at least swing a sword. And an extra trick that he has is now he can absorb attacks and reflect them through his gates. But he's only learning now to use it. So we find Asta sleeping far in a forest on a branch when he hears the voice of Rekka, his puffy red-haired sibling. Asta, we're going to the ceremony, Rekka would say, as Asta would say, oh, today? My bad. He then rolls off the branch and floats down, asking Rekka if she wanted to ride, and her face would fill up with glee as she nods intensely, making him laugh. He then picks her up and flies towards his family while they're heading to the tower. Along with them are other commoners who be waving to Asta, and there are also nobles in the crowd who are hating how he's showing off. Asta would say, hi back to them, saying, hi guys, and he then lands down near his group and apologizes for being late, when Nash then says, it's like you're forgetting today's your day or something. Asta would then say, nah, I just fell asleep, don't worry about it. Orsi would then say, well, good luck you two, I hope you're ready. And Asta then nods saying they are, and soon everyone enters the tower, with some nobles already hating on commoners to the annoyance of Asta. They act like this now, but when someone beats them up, they go off to their daddies crying, he would think. He then chuckles to himself with, asking what he thinks he will get, and Asta says he'll definitely get a 4-leaf clover. If I didn't, that'd be a blasphemy. Then I'm gonna get one too, would say, as the two would then laugh, and this is when the Grimoire elder would step up and calm down the rowdy kids. I've waited for this day for so long. The next generation. Their ceremony will determine the rest of your lives, whether you want to be an adventurer, a knight. I wish you the best. As he breathes in, he then commences the ceremony, and the grimoires from every corner of the building would shine as they float out of their spots and come down to their respective owners. Some are blue, some are brown, some are red, and there are all types of different grimoires and types of magic. And then out of those grimoires, one particular one would cast a light on everyone, revealing a 4-leaf clover to the shock of all of them. Oh my god, a 4-leaf! Come to me, please, people will be saying, as the nobles would then be saying, no, commoners like you can't get such a thing, and they're hoping it lands in their hands. People start to argue about who will get the grimoire, only for it to land in Yuno's hand, a commoner. Whoa, seriously? As he gets this grimoire, would then smile before pumping his fist into the air with this grimoire, then and he would say, this grimoire is mine, and I'm gonna be the Wizard King. This causes an eruption of applaud as Asta also claps for him, but as he is, his eyes would then pulse, causing him to burst with a bright golden light that blinds everyone around him, and they would cover their eyes while backing away from him. The young Arlute from the orphanage then asks Orsi if Asta is okay, and Nash laughs, saying, it's Asta, why are you worrying? He's probably just gonna do something ridiculous again. As the light dies down, everyone would then open their eyes to see a golden grimoire slowly forming right in front of Asta, and it was a 4-leaf clover, a pure 4 golden leaf clover grimoire, and Asta would grab it, gaining ownership of this book, and the light was so bright, and the elder would think, powerful grimoire, from nothing but the pure mana of its owner. Incredible. The science then kind of sets in, when Yuno then starts to clap, and the other commoners would erupt with applause and screams, and they would say, go show them what commoners are made of, Asta. Yeah, you too, Yuno. And Asta cannot help but smile as he would put up a peace sign, and the ceremony soon comes to an end, with Yuno's family, Yuno and Asta's family going home, but Asta and Yuno are told to stay so the elder can inspect their grimoire. Sorry if I messed that up a little bit. A few minutes later, when they're done with that and they're leaving, the elder waves goodbye, but his face turns to one of seriousness, just as the door would close behind. That grimoire, it has a strange and bizarre design. He's of course talking about Asta's grimoire, as when Asta and Yuno are leaving, Yuno would ask Asta if he got any spells, and he nods, saying he already had 10 spells, to the shock of Yuno, as he thinks, as expected of Asta, I need to catch up. But then, all of a sudden, Asta would stop as he summoned the gate, unleashing a sword out of it, which he would grab and use to cut up an incoming attack from Revji, the chain mage. He would then cut up his chains in the blink of an eye, surprising Yuno as he turns to see Revji walk out. Too fine specimen, Revji would say. Powerful wind magic, and a rare type of spatial magic. How could I control myself? Both Yuno and Asta show a face of disgust when one of Asta's spells then activates, as his grimoire would flip before then stopping and showing him the spell. And as Asta sees the spell, he smiles. Yuno, let me handle this. He would then walk forward with his sword and gets in a professional and masterful stance, with Revji saying he should get serious. You won't last long with just a little sword. Shut up and fight, Asta would say, as he disappears and appears right in front of a shocked Revji with the swift, soundless, and perfect slash cutting off his head in an instant, and Yuno is wide-eyed. Asta, did you use a spell? Yuno would ask. As Revji's head would just fall to the ground, Asta would turn around, making his sword disappear as he says, yeah, gate magic, the treasure of Babylon. Yuno would then say, it's like you were a master swordsman or something. Asta then says that's what the spell was. It lets him gain temporary mastership and knowledge on how to master and use all his weapons that he holds. And that shocks Yuno, but Asta walks past him like it's nothing, just telling him to hurry up. I'm right, let's go, Yuno would say. When they go back home, they start training for months. Asta learns his spells, which I will reveal as the story goes on, and Yuno trains even harder than before, and after preparing, they would leave and make it to the capital. This was their first time in such a fancy place, and they went around getting some food, visiting some shops, until they would go and stand in line for the entrance exams for Magic Knights. Asta, who was in front of Yuno, would, of course, go ahead and be asked for his grimoire, and then he nods and holds his hand out, forming it from his gate, to the surprise of the receptionist, but not only would he be surprised, his jaw would drop when he sees it is a 4-leaf clover, but he has to give Asta his privacy and says nothing else and just gives him a number so he can enter. Wait, did that guy have a 4-leaf? People will be saying, as this would make people mumble, but the receptionist saying to be quiet, and they do. They quiet down, and he would think, seriously, a 4-leaf? Was he a commoner or a noble? He has the face of a noble, but he's wearing rags. Up then comes Yuno, and the man feels something similar is about to occur, and when Yuno would bring out his 4-leaf clover, it indeed dumbfounds him, as he would then say, here you go, in a shaky voice. Yuno then thanks him and goes in, getting his number to see a bunch of young mages like him, but weirdly, there are these birds everywhere, and they're bothering most people. As Yuno looks for Asta, he sees he's just looking around, and no birds were even anywhere near him, and weren't even bothering him. man, that guy's amazing. How much mana does he have? People will be saying. As you know, then here's from one of these people who was complaining that the birds only bother people with low magic levels. They're anti-magic birds. So he's happy he's not being bothered, of course, and Asta is not being bothered either. I heard both of them have 4 leaves, one of them would say. As hearing this, some girls start looking at the two with interest and romance despite their social standing, because they're quite, lookers. Asta has blonde hair and red eyes, and looks like a literal model, so, Asta doesn't really care though, as he knows what they're thinking, and, he's a smart person. And then out of nowhere, voices are heard. We apologize. We finally arrived. Everyone then turns to see the infamous captain step up, just as the magic birds would fly away at the abundance of their magic just gathering in one place, and all the mages would be in awe of their presence, and they start to cheer. Out of them, Von Johnston steps up using his magic, chase tree magic, and he would create brooms that fly down before he explains the test, and so everyone attempts to fly. But as they are struggling, some of them look up to see Yuno and Asta doing it with relative ease and are left speechless as Asta looks down at them bored. This is supposed to be tough. Then the next test is the moving target test, with the flying target just flying around you, and a certain mage, which will be Asta, would lift his hand out and form a gate above his head, as he would release a light beam ripping through it, and Yuno releases a mini wind fang to hit his target, and both of them make the captains get more interested in them. And then it's the pure power test. You have to hit a stone target. Again, without barely doing much, Asta would form a gate above him, and it would release a lightning strike this time, which hits and shatters their target to nothing. From the side, the people who were participating will be wondering what his magic was when one-on-ones finally come up. That's the fun shit. And anyone can choose to fight anyone they want, and Asta is waiting for someone to fight when some noble would come up and grab him by the shoulder, and as Asta turns and faces him, the noble would say, "Me and you, right now, commoner." As he says this with a smile, Asta says sure, with the noble then walking out as the crowd would make way for them. Asta just follows behind, and they clear and make a little circle for them. And then the match is, told to begin by Von Jones. "Watch, commoner, let me show you the gap between us," the noble would say, as he would then summon his ice magic while activating his grimoire, and everyone just gasps at the amount of magic he is gathering. This reaction makes him more arrogant as he tells Asta to use his grimoire and try to receive his blow. But Asta says no. "I don't really need it." Everyone gasps. He's gonna fight without using a grimoire? Is he insane? The noble then laughs before then getting more serious. "You think just because you have a 4-leaf grimoire you're special?" He then readies and fires and releases a barrage of icicles at Asta, who would smile before taking a step and dodging one. And to surprise of everyone as he does this, they think it might be a fluke, but Asta just keeps dodging and dodging until he comes face to face with the noble, and the noble is frozen still. "Impossible. How could you see them?" Asta would say, "Because." He then slams an uppercut into his jaw, sending him 100 feet into the air, causing a shockwave, and as he flies out of the stadium, Asta finishes his words, "You're too slow." The noble would then be caught by Vengeance's branches and is bleeding at the mouth, with Asta with a disappointed look just walking back to the crowd, and the participants now know he is dangerous. Vengeance would then say, "A spectacular show. It seems he was not strong enough for you to use your actual power. However, maybe see a demonstration of it." "Really?" Asta would say. Alright. He then holds his hand out and his grimoire would come out, with him saying, "Gate of Babylon." In an instant, a huge and dense amount of magic would gather in the arena, sending a chill down everyone's spine, and even the captains feel it, as they would then be hit by a light from above, and when they all look up, they are shocked to see more than 200 gates all over, and they're already in a light beam. "Stop," Vengeance would say, as the magic then fades away, and when it does, all the participants could barely breathe, with Vengeance saying, "I'm impressed, Asta." "Thank you, sir," Asta would say, as he would then put away his grimoire and walk to, behind the crowd and sit down, and everyone is just kind of speechless, but they hadn't seen Yuno yet. Yuno also fights an arrogant noble and can gather a lot of magic, but it's nothing compared to Asta. Then people after people go and show their prowess until it comes time for the selection, and when Asta is called up as number 164, all the captains raise their hands to the shock of everyone. "I request to join the Black Bulls." Everyone freezes up with them yelling, "What?" Yami would then ask if he was really being serious, and Asta nods. "What is this kid thinking?" they'd be saying, as Yami would say, "You know who we are, right?" Asta would say, "I don't really care. That's why I'm doing it. I'm gonna take your garbage squad and make it the best. No offense." Yami finds this interesting and lets him in, to the annoyance of the captains, but they were hoping Yuno would choose differently. A few hours later, as night falls, the selection has been made, everyone parts ways, and Yuno chooses the Golden Dawn, and Asta will walk through a portal as he finds himself in a forest. Nice, spatial magic. I have a spell like this, Asta would say. Fernro would then say, well, I'm sure yours is way better than mine. Yami then walks through, and Asta says to Fernro that he shouldn't, be so down and on himself, because, his magic is pretty simple, but simple doesn't have to mean weak. And this is when they would approach the Black Bull base, as Yami would say, ain't no turning back now, kid. Before they can even take another step, an explosion occurs, sending rubble that falls at their feet, making Asta smile, as he would then run in, with Fernro going to stop him, but Yami says to let it happen. Let's see how he fares. As Asta leaps through the smoke, he then sees and intervenes between Magna and Luck's fight by using gates as he flies past them and absorbs their spells to their shock. What? Who are you? All the Black Bulls stop what they're doing and turn to see a flying Asta, who then says, I'm your new Kohai. Nice to meet ya. He then snaps his fingers, and the two gates that he had used would then reopen and release Luck and Magna's magic back at them, knocking them back faster than they could even perceive, and they're shocked. As they fall, Yami would then walk up as he sees them and starts laughing. You can't let yourself be beat like that. Charmy would then ask, is this prince really joining us? She's kind of blushing, as Asta would say, I'm not a prince. I'm Asta. He then lands down and says nice to meet them, making Charmy and Vanessa swoon, but Yami then yells for them to gather, and as they do, Yami formally introduces Asta, properly. Well, he'll be joining us, so take care of him. Oi, Magna would say, as he then gets up in his face, and he said that he wanted a rematch, and Lux said the same, with Yami then putting up an interesting idea. Why don't you both take him on for the baptism? Vanessa would say, wait, seriously? I mean, he's strong, but isn't that a bit much? Even Magna and Luck agree, because it feels like bullying, but also says it's fine. I'll crush you both. Oh yeah, then let's do this, Luck would yell, as they would then all go outside, and the couch is brought out for the others to watch, while Magna and Luck stand before Asta, who asks what the point of the fight even was. If you win, you officially become one of us, and get one of these. He then points to his robe, and Asta said now he had to win, as he would summon out two gates in front of him, and he would put out two katanas to the surprise of Yami and everyone, but Luck and Magna are kind of interested. Luck then creates his lightning boots and claws as he brings out his grimoire, as does Magna, who creates his fire bat. Just try to stay alive, Magna would say, as Asta then nods and rushes in with Magna saying, wait, shouldn't you bring out your grimoire? Luck then says who cares about that and appears in front of Asta in a flash with a kick, but to his surprise, Asta dodges and then cuts him up, ripping off his armor of a lightning. What are those swords? Magna would yell, as Luck in the daze is then kicked in the stomach with so much force that he's sent flying into the hideout of the top floors, crashing through it. I don't like using my grimoire too much, sorry, Asta would say. Magna nervously then gets in a battling stance and says, you're a real monster, aren't you? Asta then runs forward with Magna throwing a bunch of scatter shots at him, but he cuts through these rapid fireballs before then throwing one of his swords at Magna, and it almost hits him right in the forehead, but then it dissipates, disorienting him, and he stumbles back a bit, and this is when he would hear the sound of a sword just swishing the air, and he looks down to see Asta having his katana at his throat. The other Black Bulls will clap at this, as Magna then says he loses, making the katana in Asta's hand disappears back into the gate. And he then says, sorry about that, I was just super excited, Magna hearing this then smiles, as he thought Asta was going to be an arrogant dick about it, and he holds his hand out and Asta shakes it, with Magna saying, for a noble, you're alright, Asta then gets confused. Oh, I'm not a noble. What? They would all yell, as Yami would say, you're a commoner, kid? Asta would say, you too? I thought you... Yeah, I'm as common as they come, I just have a pretty face. This makes Magna laugh as he says he's a real man, and the others then come over saying that was a pretty good show, and Ghost wants to show a picture of his sister, and Gordon is trying to communicate but can't really do that. They're all just welcoming him. And as they welcome him, Asta can also send someone else, but he chooses to let it pass for now, as he then remembers and asks, oh, what about the kid I kicked away? Yami would then say, he'll be fine. Luck loves a good fight. We then cut to a knocked out Luck, who will be dozing off, and just like that, well, Asta is made part of the group, and he gets his own robe. Magna would then say, alright newbie, let me show you around. Asta then says okay, and they head off with Magna showing him their onsen, their big library, and his own room before he then brings him to a cage holding Yami's, various beasts. Magna would then say, yeah, they look awesome, but be careful, they're Hey, stop! Asta was reaching his hand into the cage, as when he did, the beast would freeze before then starting to lick his hand, making him laugh. It tickles. Magna is left confused because the beasts never act like that with anyone but Yami. This is when Asta senses that same person he did before, and up then walks Noelle, and when Magna sees her, he says, "Oh, this is the other newbie. She's called Noelle, I think." She was super vague about it. Noelle then looks at the two before then asking why a noble was wearing such shabby clothes. "What house are you from?" "I'm not a noble," Asta would say. Noelle is taken aback by this revelation and then yells at Asta for deceiving her, quote unquote, and this confuses both Asta and Magna. "Senpai, let's go back to that onsen," Asta would say. "That place is awesome." Magna would then say, "Sure thing, it's better than whatever this is." They then start to leave with Noelle being angered, my bad. "You're truly just gonna walk away?" "Yep," Asta would say. As in a fit of anger, she would then ready her wand and create a water ball, only for a chain to launch out and rip through it, causing it to explode everywhere. And to the shock of Noelle and Magna, it would be a chain that did this. And as Magna turns around, he then sees the same thing as Noelle, a long chain retracting back into Asta's gate. What exactly is your magic?" Magna would ask. Asta would then say, "It's called gate magic. I can summon endless amounts of magic weapons. This one's my favorite." The chain then retracts back with Asta saying she shouldn't be going around starting fights. "We're magic knights. Be ready to back up your words." However, this makes Noelle not only get angry, but she rips off her robe and throws it away, shattering Magna's heart as he would then run over and pick up the ruined robe in tears. "What's wrong with you? Are you insane?" he would yell. Asta would say, "It's okay, senpai. Let's ignore her. Vanessa-sensei can make you another one." "Hey, why do you call her sensei and me senpai?" Asta would say, "It's just how it is." Magna would then say, however, this is true and, there's no need to worry about her. And he stands up not really knowing what's up with that girl because she tried to sneak attack them with magic first off. That's messed up. And then she just walked away like a weirdo. But they had to move on. And as night falls, Asta is given a room and goes to sleep. The next day when he woke up, Luck would then sit up from his bed confused. He beat me? He then runs out of bed and searches for and finds Asta cleaning up, and he would then say hi. Asta would then say, "Oh, hey Luck, I got your name from Magna. Sorry about the kick." Luck would then think, "He did beat me. Actually, I'm not surprised. This guy's magic. It's off the charts." Asta then asked Luck if he was okay, and he nodded, saying Asta is impressive, asking what type of swords he was using, and Asta says he wasn't really sure what their names were because he hasn't named them yet, but they're kind of this weird blade called a katana from Japan. It's a foreign country. Captain Yami's from there. Luck finds that relation cool and then asks if he can help with cleaning, and he says sure. So they clean, wake up a grumpy Yami, and it's genuinely fun. And after they're done, Luck would then ask for a rematch with Asta saying sure, because got time to spare. So they go outside to fight when they then sense magic being used and would hear a bunch of noise as well. They then walk and come across a ruined field riddled with water attacks while Noelle is trying to, she's struggling to use a spell correctly. "Why can't she control it?" Luck would ask as they're hiding. "Nobles are super strong, right?" Asta would then say, "It's not about control. I think she's scared." As Noelle is about to try another spell, she then sees Luck and Asta looking at her, with them both waving to her with a smile, but then her face turns to one of horror as she would create a giant water ball and launch it at them. Grabbing Luck, Asta would then fly back, as this is when they see the attack not only backfire, but backfire onto Noelle herself, who will be enveloped by it, and the water ball would grow and grow to a gigantic size, shocking Luck and surprising Asta, who would say, "Interesting." Luck would then say, "She is powerful, but she's gonna explode if we don't do something." Asta then lands down, just as the other Black Bulls then run out, asking what's wrong. "I'll tell you after we deal with this. Well, after I deal with this." Asta then holds up his hand, making a gate form as he would start to build up a huge amount of, light. "Wait, won't that hurt her?" Magna would yell. Asta would then smile, saying this isn't just a light beam that was firing. It was a specific type of magic, firing from a magic staff that only destroyed magic and did not hurt people. "Gate magic. Unravel," he would say, as the beam would then fire and hit the water, making it explode and canceling the spell to the shock of everyone. But then Noelle starts to fall, only for Asta to leap into the air and fly before catching her just as she reaches the ground. And then he starts to slowly land. She then coughs up water and would slowly open her eyes to see Asta as the sun would kind of reflect off his pure blonde hair and make him seem like an angel, and she blushed. "Aw, adorable," Asta would think. He then lands down with everyone running over as he would then let her down, but she falls down because she is weak at the knees, and she then looks up at everyone and expects them to make fun of her. So she lowers her gaze, kind of carrying fear, only for it to hurt that she was, amazing. "What?" Noelle would say, as Magna would then say, "Yeah, I've never seen that much built-up mana just come out of nowhere." Vanessa would then say, "Yeah, you just need to train a bit and you'll be golden." For once, she was praised despite messing up a spell, and it made her almost want to cry as Asta then gave her a hand and helped her up. I can help you with that problem. Here, take this. He then holds out his hand, and out would come out a bracelet, and it would form, and he attaches it to Noel, who then he tells to try a spell. This, however, makes everyone back away, but Asta said it was okay. Trust me, alright, Asta would say. Noel would then blush, but then try a water lance as she thinks of the spell. Before it forms, she then forms it and fires it, and it hits and actually destroys the tree that she was trying to hit this entire time, shocking her. How did you... Asta would say, this is one of my special treasures from my gate. It'll help you stabilize yourself, but you will need to take it off eventually. I mean, they're like training gears. The other Black Bulls are shocked as Noel would then hug him crying, and Asta pats her on the head, and then the others then come up asking how many things like that he had. Noel would stop hugging him, saying she wanted to know as well, and he makes his Grimoire appear and he tells everyone to come look. As they all look behind him, they would be shocked to see that there was a huge list of these weapons he had, and he only kept getting more and more. They were literally appearing right in front of them. And Asta would say, this book grew only to this size today. Probably why there's so much stuff today. That's incredible. Are you really a commoner? Asta would then say, yep. Meanwhile, in the Heart Kingdom, Lolopechica, who has red eyes in this timeline, would then walk up to a cup, a golden cup, the Holy Grail, and it was reacting. Undine then forms behind the queen saying, he's alive, isn't he? Lolopechica would then say, yeah, my little brother, he's okay. As she says this, a tear would fall from her eyes as we cut to a few days later as we see Asta cut a boar in half. Why are we doing this again? Asta would ask, and Magna would say because Yami said so. Noel, instead of complaining, would actually be trying to just make spells which were actually hitting and hurting the boars, and she was having fun. Magna then says she's brightened up a bit more. She can even ride a broom now. Good job, man. I only did what was needed, Asta would say. In this moment is when Asta would sense something and he says to follow him, and he runs out to Saussy village at incredible speed. And far, far ahead, after running super fast, he would see a giant wall of fog and mist, and he takes out his wand and hits the wall, making ripples of light spread through the wall before it then bursts and fades. Asta then sees something bad ahead about to happen, just as an icicle almost stabs an old man in the heart, but he stops and appears right in front of the attack and grabs it before breaking it. I don't know why I took that slow, I gotta stop doing that. Alright, Asta would then ask, what the hell are you doing? Heath's henchmen are surprised as they wonder what happens to their barrier, and Asta looks behind to see the rallied and worried villagers. Are you a magic knight? The kid would ask. Asta then nods, saying everyone would be fine, and now he tells Heath and his men to give up. This is when Magna and Noel would then run up to see the situation, with Heath then saying, you're wasting my time. These rats were set to be exterminated at exactly 2 o'clock. He then uses his magic and from above would form icicles that start to kind of scare the villagers, but Noel and Magna attack the henchmen behind because they know Asta can handle it and they don't really care what Heath does. And they start fighting his henchmen when Heath would say, your companions must be stupid or something. Nope, they just know you're about to die, Asta would say. And this makes Heath drop the icicles, but then a giant gate opens up, swallowing it to the shock of him. And then 4 gates would appear behind Asta, before then shooting out the same icicles but way faster, and one cuts Heath on the side and then on the cheek. This makes Magna and Noel, who are fighting in the back, have to dodge some of them, but one of the henchmen actually gets speared in the heart and dies, and then more icicles just keep coming, but he would then create a wall that stops them. He's dangerous, he would think. Boss, what do we do? One of them would ask, as this is when he's actually stabbed from the back by a dagger through the stomach, shocking Heath, and the last henchman who the other henchmen start to kind of, say the same thing. What are we going to do? When they're stabbed from nowhere and die as well. Those portals, he can make them come anywhere. But it must be limited somehow, Heath would think. As he says this, he faintly sees a blinding light through his ice wall before then getting ripped through the stomach by a light beam. And this, of course, destroys the ice wall. And then Heath dies. With Magna then saying, good job. A bit gruesome, though. Well, it is, Asta. It was a massacre, and Asta would then turn around asking everyone if they were okay, and they would not, thanking him. Asta would then say, here, let me heal you. He then pulls out a golden staff from his gate, and as he raises the staff, it forms a dome around the hurt villagers, who start to be healed to the amazement of the villagers. And Magna and Noel would then walk up, as Noel would say, another treasure, huh? Yep, still no name. The dome then soon dies down when the villagers are fully healed, and they ask what they can do to repay them. And Asta would then ask if they know what those people who were here, like, what they wanted. And the chief of the village then brings out a yellow stone and he gives it to Magna, who checks it saying it's a magic stone. Yeah, we should bring this back. Thank you so much. We're sorry we didn't come any sooner. It's quite alright, young man. We're glad you came at all, one of the villagers would say. And after getting the stone, they go back home and, they take care of the surrounding boars and then give the stone to Yami, who gives it to Julius. And then something particular happens a few days later as a new dungeon will be found, which is rare, but we'll get to that later. Back at the Black Bulls base after their mission, Noel and Asta will be paid, and Yami then says, "And you little bastards got us a star." Straight from the top honcho himself. "The Wizard King? Wonderful," Noel would say, as Asta, however, says, "Don't get excited. Truth is, we actually have negative 30 stars, apparently." This shocks Noel, but Yami says it's true, as he reveals, where he put the stars, on the board, and he did indeed have literally negative stars. And Noel would say, "That's just ridiculous." "Cheer up, come on." Yami would say, "Go buy yourselves a little something." Vanessa would then say, "Oh, I'll take them. Let's go buy something maybe you can keep in your gate." "I have been looking for a new axe," Asta would say. Vanessa then says, "Alright then, let's go to the capital." So they go to the capital and find the black market and start looking around for interesting things. Literally anything that isn't worthless. But they find that most of it is junk, and Noah literally says that. Most of this is junk. Asta then agrees, saying this basically is nothing compared to his treasure, which are worth at least millions. "I just can't sell them because they have sentimental value." As the three start just talking about the value of this stuff, Seki watches from afar like a creep, shaking his boots when he sees Asta again. That guy's gotta be some monster in disguise, I swear. As he says this, he and everyone on the street then hear an elder yell for help, and anyone to help, and this is a wind magic user who runs away while holding then the old woman's belongings, and he thinks, none of these idiots can catch me. But as he says this, something grabs his leg as he then trips and falls over face first, and after this, he screams in pain as he turns around to see he has a chain wrapped around his leg, and this chain yanks him towards Asta, who would catch him by the neck. "Hey buddy, how you doing?" "Save me," he would think, as Vanessa then takes away the belongings he stole, and she hands it back over to the old woman, who thanks them, just as Asta releases the robber, who at this point has passed out from fear, and also because the magic chain can actually drain magic away, so it made him weak. "Boring," Asta would say, as he then, makes the chains disappear, and he turns to Julius with his eyes shining, and he smiles, which sends a chill down Julius' spine. "Did you figure it out?" Julius would think. Asta then says, "That's a bad disguise, man." While Noel and Vanessa are confused, Julius understands that he now knows, but Asta walks away saying they should go back home because this is really boring and super boring. And as they start leaving, Julius then runs away into an alley and transforms back to normal. Those eyes are terrifying. I feel like I've seen them somewhere before though. But now he was interested in Asta and sent a request to him for him to go to the new dungeon, and so he heads over there with Luck and Noel, and as they enter it, Luck does not set off any traps because even though Noel has already done it by accident once, Asta will probably just knock him out if he does it on purpose, making him miss the whole mission if he goes too far, so he's on his best behavior. And for some reason, Asta was able to tell where the traps were after the first one activated, and he told them all where to step. They then soon come out of this little dark tunnel and enter the real dungeon, and are amazed seeing it's full of just an abundance of mana, and it's just mesmerizing, And Asta would actually be impressed, and Noel would say, "There's so much mana here." Asta then agrees, just as both he and Luck would sense a little battle not far off, and Luck would say he's leaving as he activates his lightning boots, and he speeds away much to Noel's dismay. "Hey, wait! Where are you going? Do you know where he's going?" Asta would say, "Don't worry, he'll be fine." Noel then thinks, "No, I meant, now that he's gone, it's only the two of us. This is so freaking nerve-wracking." By accident, she then steps back just as Asta tells her to stop, and then she releases a magic plant trap which snarls at them, but then in an instant it is cut in half by Asta's axe, which he took out before then making it disappear, and the plant withers away. "Sorry about that. Stay close to me, okay?" Asta would say. Noel then nods when Asta smiles, and he says, just stay close. And this is when he actually senses something and looks up to see, who would come out of the similar and parallel tunnel that they came out of. And he was floating down using his arc while carrying Mimosa and Klaus. "Asta, it's been a while," would say. "Sup," Asta would say, as then lands, with Asta then walking up, as does and they hug. "You been causing trouble?" would ask, and Asta says, "Obviously. It's kind of my thing. And hey, you too." Mimosa then says hi, and Noel walks out from behind Asta when Her and Mimosa then recognize each other and they say each other's names simultaneously. It's been a while, Noah would say. Indeed, Mimosa would say, as Asta then walks up to Klaus and sticks his hand out, with Klaus then looking at him, and Klaus then asks him, "Are you that commoner who stupidly chose the Black Bulls?" Asta then puts his hand down saying, "And?" This makes Klaus laugh. To think our captain even rose his hand for you. What a waste. This makes Yuno pissed off as he even looks at Klaus with a glare, and Klaus looks back at him. "Since when did I?" Yuno would then say, "Shut the fuck up. If you say another word about my brother, I'll shred you to pieces." This scares the crap out of Klaus, but also says to calm down. We've met people like him before. Just chill out. I don't really care what he says. Asta then says he and Noel have to go look for luck, but they will meet up with Yuno later. He then grabs Noel like a princess and leaps into the air, flying away without really needing a broom, to the surprise of Mimosa and Klaus. "Isn't that monozone?" Mimosa would ask. "What's monozone?" Yuno would, ask her, and Klaus says it's a high-level magical technique, something only captains or senior magic knights can do. Hearing this, instead of being surprised, Yuno would smile, thinking he would need to catch up even faster, and then he creates his arc around them and then lifts them into the air, with Klaus saying, "And I will not allow you to speak to me in such a manner. Then feel free to duel me, senpai," Yuno would say. This once again freaks out Klaus, who cannot believe he's afraid of a mere commoner, but Mimosa breaks it up, saying they don't have time for that, and using her magic she would create a map and show them a map of the dungeon. "So that's the treasure room, I think," she would say as she points to it, and Klaus says, "Good. I'm gonna show that commoner who's superior." As the Golden Dawn team soon finds the room, they land down and walk towards it, when Yuno then tells Mimosa and Klaus to watch out, as he then pushes them away before then jumping back and dodging a giant mineral sword. Mimosa and Klaus then look up to see Mars flying in. "Looks like I got stuck with cleaning up the bugs," Mars would utter. Instantly, the mages can feel the high amount of magic from this guy, and get serious, releasing their Grimoires, and they would engage in battle with him. But Mars has too much magic and way too much experience. He hurts Mimosa and forces her to start healing herself in a sort of dome while Klaus and Yuno have to protect her, and then he actually beats up Klaus, who can no longer even stand up, but Yuno is still fighting and trying to hit him. "Stop attacking. You know how this ends," Mars would say, as he would then send mineral blades towards Yuno, who uses his magic to surround him while he's kind of dodging and deflecting them, but he still gets cut. However, he then gets close enough to slam a wind fang into his stomach. "I finally got a hit," he would think. However, as the wind clears, Mars is covered in armor to the shock of Yuno, who would then be hit in the stomach by a mineral spike that crashes him into the ground. But instantly he gets back up, angering Mars and surprising Klaus. How can he possibly have so much magic? He's just a damn commoner. Mars would then say, "I'll admit, you're strong, but if this is all you can do, you'll die right here." He then summons and swings down a giant mineral blade, and Yuno is too tired to dodge, but he prepares a final defensive spell, only for a bullet to then appear in front of him, and in an instant the giant blade is cut to pieces to the shock of everyone, as they then see Asta has arrived. Asta then turns to Yuno just as the pieces of mineral fall behind him, and he smiles. "Ah, you look like shit." "Shut up, I miscalculated," Yuno would say, as Asta would then keep laughing when Noel then runs out to Mimosa and she yells for Asta to heal her. "Yeah, sure, in a moment. I'll deal with this guy first," Asta would say. "Alright then, I'm gonna take a break," Yuno would say, as he then sits down cross-legged, with Klaus asking what the hell he's doing, when he then tells him to be quiet. "This is gonna end really soon, trust me." Asta would then start to levitate up to Mars' level, and a stare down begins between the two, and Mars would finally kind of break a sweat, and he senses Asta's magic. His magic is growing more and more. Is it past my level? Asta then holds his hand out and summons a golden axe, telling Mars to get ready, as he disappears and appears right behind him, and in an instant, despite having his armor, his torso would burst with blood as his armor then shatters, leaving Klaus with his jaw dropping. In an instant? Klaus would think. Mars, as he's about to fall, is then caught by chains from Asta's gate, as they then surround him now, with them holding and hanging him up in the air, and slowly they're sucking away his magic. He beat me, Mars would think, so easily? Since when did the Clover Kingdom have someone this strong? Asta then floats in front of him, hanging his axe on his shoulder, as he would then say, "Why didn't you get ready? I warned you too." "You? What are you?" Mars would ask. "Hey, that's rude. I'm Asta, a Black Bull Magic Knight." As he says this, Mars would then pass out. I almost confuse their names sometimes, as Asta would then float down, making the axe disappear and summoning his staff, which he then uses to cast a dome over Mimosa, instantly healing her, and she would open her eyes to see Noel. "Mimosa, are you okay?" Noel would ask, and Mimosa would say, "Yeah." She then sits up and looks around frantically when she senses a lot of magic, and looks up to see Mars hung up like a beat-up trophy by golden chains. She also sees Asta casting a spell on her. It was Asta, she would say. Noelle would then say, yeah, sorry we're late. We had to deal with luck. Asta, is he still not done? Asta would then say, nah, he beat him, but I want my item back, so you better get here fast. As he says this, he then turns to Yuno and Klaus, raising his staff and casting a huge dome over them, and that would not only heal them, but replenish their magic. Thanks, Yuno would say. How is that even possible? Klaus would say. So much strong magic. How are you a commoner? Asta would say. Because I am. Get over it, man. The dome then does its job and disappears as Yuno does the staff, and Yuno then walks up, coming up and asking if those chains on Mars would last long, and Asta says they don't really drain his magic that much, so they can stay as long as he wants. What drains your magic? Like, what actually drains you? Asta would then say, not much. Anyway, let's go. He then walks to the treasure room and walks past Klaus, who is forced to realize that Asta is simply too strong for him and most people. And as he comes into the treasure room, the door, the monster is about to say that it's really strong, only for Asta to summon a sword and cut it to pieces. Are we even needed here? Mimosa would ask. Noelle then huffs up, saying, it's okay. At least we're still alive. So they go to the treasure room, and Asta tells everyone to throw everything in his gate because he can hold a lot. So he just has a big gate open, so they're just throwing stuff in it, and they start to have fun while doing it. Meanwhile, Klaus is just being awestruck. And Luck eventually, arrives and helps out, as then walks to a certain scroll, and he picks it up and opens it, and he sees the glyphs. This is when a shine would catch everyone's attention, as Asta would turn, saying, ooh, a spirit. The light then dissipates after hitting who then sees the glyphs on the scroll are actually gone. Something wrong? Mimosa would ask. Would then drop the scroll and then walk away, saying it was nothing wrong, and he asks if they're almost done with the treasures, and Luck would say, almost. Asta, are you sure I can't keep this? He's talking about the necklace that Asta gave him to boost his mana while he fought Lotus, and Asta would snap his finger with it disappearing as he says, no, you don't need it. You're really strong. You just need a little boost. Luck was then about to say, but what about... Noelle then cuts in, saying, actually, I need this. My control is horrible. You can't compare me and you. Okay. That sucks, Luck would say. Asta, however, says he'll give him something later since his collection keeps growing and growing, and Klaus would cough, turning everyone's attention to him, and he would ask, what exactly is your magic? Asta. Ooh, you used my name. You must be really desperate, Asta would say. But I'll humor you. He then holds his hand out, summoning a golden grimoire, as he says it allows him to use gate magic. His gate called Babylon holds thousands of weapons and magic items that he uses to attack people. Those chains holding whatever the hell his name is can actually steal magic if I want them to. And they are. I didn't know you could do that, would say, and Asta says it's because it's another spell I got. Okay, I don't have time for this. Let's just go. We'll leave the diamond mages until they wake up later. Y'all are fine with that, right? They would then agree, and they would leave with all the treasures and head back out into the forest, where Asta says he'll give the stuff over to the Wizard King tomorrow. I'll see you there, Make sure you meet the spirit. He then flies away, pulling Noelle and Luck with him, with wondering what the hell he meant. And Mimosa then asks if him and Asta are really brothers. We're orphans, would say. He's like my brother. Mostly because the first time he could speak, he kept telling me he was my big bro. It was tiring. That brother of yours, his magic is not normal, Klaus would say. And says there is nothing about Asta that is normal. He then creates his arc, which then lifts them all up into the sky, with Klaus thinking, that's not what I meant. What does being a noble even mean at this point? Himself far surpasses me. So they part ways, and when they get back, Asta lets the Black Bulls hold some of the treasures because they really wanted to, and Yami would say, damn kid, we're rich. Asta then snaps, and all the treasures disappear with him, saying, you're not wasting it on booze or your bets, Captain. Bring it back, Yami would say, as Asta says no, because that would be felony. You're stealing what should belong to the kingdom, or something like that. This saddens the Black Bulls, except for Noelle, because the treasures, are awesome and shiny, but of course, she knows they can't keep any because she's a noble, and also she has way more anyway. And but the others are kind of sad because, yeah. Nami would then say, alright then, tomorrow you and Silver are gonna give a report and give away the treasure. Asta would then say, don't be so down. He might actually let us keep some of it since we did actually do a really good job, but you still can't use it for booze. This makes everyone laugh, as Asta then says if they have some free time, he's gonna go visit his home real quick. He then starts floating up as he then waves goodbye, and he flies through the door and towards the sky, picking up a lot of wind. I always wanted to ask Noelle would, say, how can he fly without a broom? Vanessa would then say it's called Mana Zone. You must have learned it early. It condenses all the mana around you. It takes a lot of skill. This kind of amazes Noelle when she hears this, and because, Vanessa also says not many people can do it, and this makes her want to train harder. Asta, after making it to Hajj, then gives away all the money he earned, and he hands it over, and he hung out with everyone, and then the next day, he and Noelle started heading over to the palace. I can't wait to see his actual face, Asta would say. Who are you talking about? Noelle would say, and Asta says the Wizard King. Noelle then says, well, we don't know if we're actually going to meet him. It's just a report, Asta would then say, yeah, but he sent us to the dungeon personally, so it could still happen. As he says this is when they would meet the Golden Dawn group that are far ahead, and they would run up to him and say hi, and there is when Klaus actually apologizes for his behavior. Did you lose a bet or something? Asta would say, and Klaus yells, no, I'm being serious. This is all me. You are an impressive knight, and I mean that. I'm just messing with you, man. It's all good. Honestly, I feel like Yuno's more mad at you than I am. Yuno would then say, I'm getting over it, but only because you're my senpai. See, it's all good, Asta would say. And as they're talking, Noelle and Mimosa are catching up. Mimosa kind of hints at her liking Asta, which makes Noelle blush. Could she feel the same way I do, she would think. Mimosa would then say, don't you think he's awesome? Noelle would then say, yes. I mean, no. It doesn't matter, he's just Asta. You call? Asta would say. And Noelle would then yell, no, as she would then be embarrassed and walk away and wave forward ahead. And Klaus asks her if he ate something bad, and Asta shrugs his shoulders. Mimosa then catches up to Noelle and helps her calm down, with the boys following until they make it to the palace, and as they arrive, someone meets them. A man with blonde hair who was wearing a fancy robe. You made it. Nice to meet you guys, Julius would say. And seeing him, Noelle, Mimosa, and Klaus bow, and Yuno asks why they're doing that, with Klaus saying, bow down, you idiot, this is the Wizard King, Julius Novachrono. Hearing this, Yuno bows instantly, but Asta does not, smiling. Even though Noelle tells him to not be, so him right now. Don't Asta this shit. Asta would then say, nice to meet you, Granny. This confuses everyone, with Julius then starting to laugh. Oh, you really did catch me, huh? You can all lift your heads. Everyone then gets up, with Noelle asking what the hell that Granny comment was about, when Julius said that old woman they helped back on the black market was him, and in disguise, and this shocks her. Why didn't you tell me? Noelle would ask Asta, and Asta says because your reaction is priceless. Hey, show some respect, Klaus would say, as Julius, however, says it's fine to act normal. Now follow me. They then all head up to this kind of tower, and there Asta says he has all the items and treasure they got from the treasure room, and he can give it over right now. Klaus also talks about Mars attacking and the diamond mages and all of that, and Julius would say then it's very lucky you were around, wasn't it? He then looks to Asta, who says, well, I wouldn't like to toot my own horn, but yes, you would, Yuno would say. And Asta says, yep, I'm awesome, I would. Ha! Klaus, Mimosa, and Noelle, meanwhile, are just out of energy, because no one ever acts so brazen in front of the king, but Yuno and Asta are acting like they're just talking to someone normal. Julius would then say, speaking of the battle, what's your magic? I'm super interested. Asta would then hold his hand out, creating his grimoire, making Julius excited, and Yuno holds out his grimoire, and Julius starts to look at them when he stops and asks, have you been to the Heart Kingdom, Asta? Asta would then say, never. Why? He then points to the mark on the back of the grimoire, and he says, well, there is a 4-leaf clover mark. The design kind of reminds him personally of the Heart Kingdom. Well, sorry, I don't really know what to tell you, but I mean, the Heart Kingdom measures powers differently in grimoires, right? Julius would then say, well, I don't know, it's just, sorry, something was off. Asta then says it's okay, and Julius says aside from that, his magic is awesome. How many things can you hold? How do you release those light beams? Is it just you condensing mana? How do you already know Mana Zone? I have so many questions. At this point, he is right in front of Asta, who is leaning back, because he would say, I can see that, sir, but I don't know how much I can hold. My beams are released by special staffs, and I don't know what Mana Zone is. Julius then apologizes and gets out of his face, with Yuno saying, wait, your lightning flails? Is that shot up by staffs too? Asta then nods, with him asking, how many staffs do you have, and can they use other types of spells? Asta then thinks, with everyone being tense, as he says, according to my grimoire, I have like 20 staffs, each with different effects. There's one that can cast a curse on you. That doesn't even make any sense, Yuno would say. And Asta only shrugs his shoulders again, and then sees everyone has just given up on reality, as Julius then says, let me see what you found. I think this may be too much even for me. They all then agree, and Yuno shows his spell book, his grimoire, with Julius then saying he did not understand what the glyphs meant, confusing Asta. Oh, that's a spirit summoning. They all then turn to him, with Julius then asking if he can read it, and Asta says yes. You've received the blessing of a wind spirit. I can literally feel its mana all around you. It's actually pretty awesome. What? That's incredible, Klaus would say. As Asta then says, why he's just believing him like that, because he usually doesn't. And Klaus then says Asta himself is strange, so he's just going with the flow at this point. Well, that's hurtful, Asta would say, as Julius then gives the Grimoire back, saying, let's hope Asta is right. If he is, you're gonna bloom with excellence, my boy. Asta then says, I am right. I would never trick my own brother. After this, Julius then tells him to follow him as a ceremony is about to start. But before that, when Asta asks what they needed to become Wizard King. So that's your goal. In my opinion, what you need is merit. You need to procure results. Show how worthy you are. That's what I was hoping to hear the two would say, with Julius then wishing them good luck, and they start heading to the ceremony. As they arrive at the banquet room, Julius opens up the door and shows the group the waiting Magic Knights and their captains with their squad members, all that. And as they line up at the sides, Asta and walk in, and everyone freezes up, sensing the change in the area, as it would be the mana of the two just messing with it. But more specifically, Asta is just like his magic is slightly suffocating them. It's just weird. These two are really commoners, they would think. As Julius then calms down the little ruckus, and then tells everyone their achievements, and then he gives everyone stars and promotes them based on it. When it's Asta's turn, Julius would say, your gate magic is quite strong, but today I'm giving you 20 stars. Do you know why? 20? Solid would think? What could that commoner have done? Wait, he is a commoner, right? Julius then says the reason why is because he stored all the treasure from the dungeon in his gate, which comes as a surprise to everyone. I'm expecting more from you, Asta. Asta would then say, you got it. As Julius then also gives the Golden Dawn some credit, but they don't get stars because they barely survive without Asta. And then Julius leaves the room and lets everyone just start eating. As they are, all eyes are on the brothers, with them ignoring them and just eating like normal, but some nobles just don't think they belong here. But they won't say straight to their face because, well, they can just sense the normal amount of mana from them. And Asta then says, hey, you gotta try. What's wrong? Yuna then says, I really want to leave. Asta can see is barely holding back his anger and says to just deal with it. They just can't stand two commoners be stronger than them, just forget about it. As he says this, Mimosa is about to come over with Asta waving to her when she is then told by Alec-Dora to stop. What do you think you're doing, he would ask, as Mimosa then shivers as she is forced to head back to the Golden Dawn members, pissing off Asta as he would then slam his plate down, catching the attention of everyone. I thought you said we should just deal with it, would say. Yeah, screw that, Asta would say. He pisses me off. As Mimosa walks back, Asta passes by her and goes up to Alec-Dora, who starts to sweat nervously. Damn it, why am I afraid of this slumber rat, he would think. Mimosa and Klaus then tell him to calm down, but he doesn't listen as he asks, what the hell do you think you're doing, huh? Oh my, commoners really have no class after all, the people will be saying, as they would say, yeah, but he's a strong one, so let's watch it for now. Alec-Dora would then say, no matter how strong you are, it doesn't change your social standing. You better watch what? Sorry, but there's one thing I know how to do. It's talk. As he says this, he hears splashing as he and Alec-Dora then turn to see Solid dump water on Noel's head. Seeing this makes Asta seethe with anger as his magic would rise, filling up the entire room, and as Solid laughs at Noel's, he feels it. Asta's bloodlust, as he would then turn to face him as he's walking over. Wait, Asta, I'm fine, see, Noel would say, and Asta would just say, all I see is a bastard that needs to be taught a lesson. From behind Asta formed 4 gates, which then release his golden chains, as they would then slap up Solid, sending him flying into a wall, and everyone gets quiet, as they then look back at Asta, who would hold his hand out, and the chains go and wrap around Solid and hold him up, as they bring him right in front of Asta. Alec-Dora was about to say something when Nozel would then get up and use his own pressure of magic as he walks up to Asta. Watch yourself, commoner. Oh yes, it's Sir Nozel. He can deal with him. As Nozel says this, however, Asta would look up to Nozel with his eyes shining and striking fear in his heart. He would then make Nozel buckle before he falls to his knees, making everyone gasp. As Nozel then looks up, and he would have a blade right in front of his eye. And when he looks around carefully, he is surrounded by blades from all sides. He got me, Nozel would say. Klaus would then run up saying, Asta, calm yourself. Attacking him is basically the same as attacking part of the kingdom. Then so be it, Asta would say. His magic rises even more, making everyone fall to their knees as they all think that they're going to die, just as Julius appears right behind Asta saying, okay, let's just all calm. But then he stops and realizes that he already has a sword behind him, and he smiles. I should have given them a warning. Yuna would then say, Asta, stop, you're hurting Noel too. As he hears this, he then sees Noel is not able to handle this pressure and would stop, making his chains disappear, dropping Solid. The blades all disappear, allowing Nozel to stand up and allowing Julius to move freely as well, and then everyone just gets back up, now fearing Asta, who would then walk over to Noelle and helps her up, apologizing. It's fine, Noelle would say. This is one of those times when you just can't do whatever you want, though. Yeah, I guess I went a bit far there, huh? As he says this, Yuno would then run up and punch him in the head, dumbfounding everyone, as Yuno then yells, "Are you trying to kill everyone, you idiot?" He then starts lecturing Asta, who says nothing and would instead take it, because he did go a bit far. But as this lecture goes on, a boom is heard, as the castle would then shake. Asta's eyes widen as he runs to a window and opens it, only to feel extreme heat, and yells, "We're under attack!" Fugolian runs up at this point and just sees Asta. He runs into the room and sees Asta fly out, with Fugolian then telling him to stop, but Julius says it's fine. Just let him, and he thinks, that magical power is just like hers. There's no doubt about it. As he flies out, Asta then sees the city filled with undead and burning homes, and there are mages attacking as well. He doesn't know if they're rebel mages or anything, but they're just attacking. But he focuses on the person who made the undead. Down below, we then cut to a family as they are surrounded by oncoming undead. Their magic is not meant for fighting, so they're panicked. There is a father, a mother, and a son, but all they can do is just hold each other until they die. Or so they thought, as a blinding light then hits them from above, and the undead then looks up to see Asta, who holds out a gourd, which was golden, and it would start sucking them into it, disintegrating them and their essence until there was nothing left. Another good item. You guys okay? Asta would ask. Asta then flies over to the family, who would be awestruck, thinking they were seeing an angel, and they thank him. Don't worry about it. They'll all be gone soon anyway. With a smile, he then points up, and they would all look up to see a giant portal. And this is when Yuno flies out, and the captains will fly out as well, about to attack. And as Nozel flies them all on his silver carpet, he says, "It's him, isn't it?" As they would then see the giant portal, which will be exuding a bunch of magic, and they start sucking and taking in the energy from the air, more specifically the magic that made up the undead. So they started to shatter and disintegrate all over the kingdom, to everyone's shock and happiness. "This is not the time to stop, Nozel," Charlotte would say, and he nods, but thinks that what he was looking at, like this power, it's just insane. Like, it's just not something that a normal person would have. So I'm gonna move on. Now, as for Rades, the man who caused all this, when he sees this giant portal, he gets mad. Who the hell gave them permission to steal my magic? Oh, it's you. He then looks up to see Asta flying over and grits his teeth. You did this? He would then summon his undead called Alfred, as he releases violent lightning blasts, but Asta dodges them while flying until he appears right in front of Revji with a punch. Asta hits and then slams Revji's face into the ground with so much force that it causes the air to swirl and cause a little mini tornado, and when it stops, Alfred disappears with Asta taking his hand off the bloodied and knocked out Rades. I almost killed him. Far off, Yuno starts fighting and uses the power of the spirit, which Asta senses in this moment, and smiles, just as this is when he sees Marie. A little girl hiding would come out of, where she was hiding, and she walks over saying hi to Asta, and Asta reassures that he is not an enemy. Sorry, did I scare you? Marie then blushes before shaking her head, and Asta picks her up, saying he was going to take her home, and then he snaps his finger, causing the giant portal to warp away. Asta! Asta then turns to see Noelle and Leopold running over, and Noelle then asks if all the undead are gone, with him then nodding. But who's this hothead, he would ask, as Leopold, seeing the power of Asta, is dumbfounded but excited. You! From now on, you will be my rival. Nope. Why? Leopold would ask, and Asta would say, I don't know who you are. Oh, yes, that is true. In this moment of awkwardness, the two are then, the three, four if you count, Marie, are surrounded by the mages that come up from underground, like they just come out of a portal. Mages that just come out of nowhere. It's him. The magic power matches. They all, of course, are talking about Asta, as Leopold then lights his hands on fire, preparing to attack, but Noelle grabs him by the shoulder and pulls him back. What? You're standing in the splash zone, she would say. It confused Leopold, then hears a snap of her fingers as out of nowhere swords would stab into the mages from behind, right in their heart, spewing all their blood all over, and Leopold nervously smiles. Oh, the splash zone. That's what you meant. As the swords disappear, all the mages fall over, and Asta apologizes to Marie and says to keep her eyes closed, which is what he had told her to do before he even used his magic. The group then walks out from this circle of corpses, just as Asta would hand Marie to Noelle. Okay, we have to meet up with the captains, Noelle would say, and Asta would say, you can't, they were teleported away. Wait, how do you... She then stops herself as she and Leopold then watch him fall through a black hole, which then warps away. Asta! She would yell, as Leopold at this moment then pushes Noelle out of the way of a blast, and they both look up to see this man on a rooftop jump down. Valtos would say, I can't have you brats obstructing his plans. It'll cost Lord Licht. Just who the hell are these people, Leopold would think. Meanwhile, as Asta falls through the portal, he then lands down to see himself in a sort of cave, and in front of him is Licht. Who are you? Asta would ask. Licht, however, does not answer, only holding out his hand and releasing a light beam, but Asta would dodge it. Shocking, just as then, he senses something and turns, dodging a light beam from one of Asta's gates that came from behind. You're not bad, Licht would say. Yeah, I don't care, Asta would say. As he says this, he then summons a battle axe to his hand and tells Licht to prepare to lose, as he then releases his magic, making Licht's face change from a confident one to a confused one. How can a mere human have this much power? In the blink of an eye, Asta appears right in front of Licht with a downward slash. From outside this little cave, we then find Julius flying over, when he would then see an explosion occur, and this explosion ripples out down to the forest. Well, interesting, Julius would say. Back in the cave, Asta had missed Licht, who had managed to somehow escape, and as Asta lifts his axe to his shoulder, he would then think, spatula magic, but it's different from the other one. The axe then disappears, and then he sighs at all this trouble being caused, just as Julius would then appear on the scene. Surprised to see me? No, how could anyone ignore all that mana? I'm not stupid, you know. You could at least pretend to care, Your Highness. What? Asta would say. Julius would then laugh at this, saying, I think it's best you return to the kingdom. Fast. You're in for a surprise. Asta lifts an eyebrow to this as we cut to the Clover Kingdom, where the spirit guardians of the Heart Kingdom have arrived on the scene, and they've taken out all the fires, rescued all the injured and tired knights, and Gaja personally beat up Valtos, saving Noel and, Leopold and Marie, and they were off, helping others, and they dropped off Marie, whatever, you know what I'm saying. And the captains who would have just returned after being teleported away land using Nozel's carpet, and they see the Heart Guardians just all around. Nozel then walks up to Gaja asking what is going on. What business does the Heart Kingdom have with ours? Gaja would then turn, saying, we have come for a prince. As he says this, he senses the power of Asta and looks up to see him arrive, as he then starts to float down. As he lands, Asta would then look to Gaja and these other people around. Who are you people? Seriously. As he asks this, the spirit guardians then all fly and just arrive and band together in the same spot, with the magic knights wondering what is going on, when all of a sudden they bow to Asta. We pay our respects to the heart of our kingdom. All the magic knights are left stunned. Is this a joke of some kind? Nozel would ask. And Gaja would say, I assure you, it is no joke. I have longed to meet you again, my prince. This absolutely shakes the knights, as a confused Asta would then say, wait, I'm not a prince, I was left in an orphanage. Gaja would then lift his head, saying, it must be, you likely have it, the pendant left by your parents. Asta, hearing this, widened his eyes as he held his hand out, summoning the golden pendant he once had put away for so long. So it is true, Charlotte would think. Nozel would then just say, what is this mess? After this bizarre discovery, the Heart Mages would then help clean up the kingdom and heal the people, and a few hours later, Asta would be sitting in front of the Magic Knights and Julius with Gaja at his side, and he is a bit pissed. You couldn't just tell me? He then stares at Julius, who apologizes, saying he wanted to see the look on his face, and Asta sighs as he then looks to Gaja. If I'm royalty, what's my family name? Gaja would then smile, saying, the same as your sister. Your full name would be Asta Pendragon. I have a sister? Gaja then nods, and Asta would say this is insane before then asking about Yuno. He was left with me. He had a pendant too. Is he also royalty? Hearing this puts everyone on the edge of their seats, as Gaja would say, Yuno is the prince of the Spade Kingdom. Fuguna would then say, no wonder. The honor you both have. There is no way you were commoners, but to think you'd be princes. It's funny, isn't it? Julius would ask. No, it's not, Asta would say. Asta would then stand up asking what happened now, and Gaja said they had to return to the kingdom. Hearing this, Asta was distraught as he then looked to Yami. It's alright, kid. Just pay us a little visit before you go. Meanwhile, Yuno would be told by Ralph, who came with the Heart Kingdom mages, that he is a prince, and right now Yuno was in the hospital room, and Ralph snuck in to tell him this, and Yuno is shocked. How do I even know this is true? Ralph would then use his magic to give his memories of his parents back and how much everyone loved him until it would all end and Yuno grabs his head in pain. He's at a loss for words, but one thing he could think of by instinct was Asta. What about my brother? You don't have a... Oh, you mean Prince Asta. He is fine, but he did disappear for a while. He's back and safe. Hearing this, Yuno would smile, prompting Ralph to ask why, and Yuno says, I knew there was something about him. A day then passes, and this news is kept secret as the Heart Kingdom and Spade Kingdom are in dire need of help, but they can't let word spread that their princes have been found, because their Dark Triad is after them. We find Asta in the eating room of the Black Bulls, who would all be wide-eyed except for Ghost, who is, just fawning at the picture of Marie. And Gray is just there when he just, tells them that he's a prince, and they mostly are just keeping to themselves. But Gray is slightly shocked. She just doesn't show that because her transformation magic is hiding it. Noelle would then say, "I knew it! There was no way you weren't a noble." "Too bad you're gonna be leaving now," Vanessa would say, as Mauna would then say, Hey, we're just gonna gloss over this? The fact that this little punk is gonna rule a kingdom?" You would then put Asta in a noogie with Yami saying, "Heart Kingdom, huh? Yeah. But don't worry about it, I'll come back. I still want to be a knight." Yami would then say, "Kid, I just don't know if that's allowed." Hearing this would sadden the group, as it is true that if he becomes a prince, Asta cannot do much else, and Magna would then let him go, saying, "Hey, don't let us stop you. If you stay, I'll freaking kill you." Luck would then say, "Magna, why are your eyes getting watery?" And as Luck says this, he punches him, says he simply wishes they had more time together as a group. "Yeah, me too," Asta would say, as we will now go to the Spade Kingdom, where Dante and the Triad sit before Veto, Licht, Raya, and Fauna. "You said he was blonde?" Zenon would ask, and Lick would say, "Yes." "It's him, right?" Vanica would ask, as Dante would then say, "Looks like we don't need you anymore." As they hear this, the group would then sweat nervously, as Veto would then ask, "What the hell does that mean, huh?" "Do we have a problem?" Dante would ask. The Midnight group would then feel the change in gravity as it brings them to their knees, and even Veto, who is physically the strongest, cannot resist the pull. Raya would then raise his head and hold his hand out as he bursts with magic. "Your copy magic doesn't work on me, man." Raya is wide-eyed as his attempt to copy the magic of this man fails. Why? Why do we have to meet these bastards, Raya would think. As while this is happening, the movement of both Asta and Yuno were issued before they even got to say goodbye to their family in Hatch. So they're moving in a boat to the Heart Kingdom, and they can see the Heart Kingdom people just shooting fireworks into the sky and just saying hi. "Welcome back, Prince Asta. You look so much like his sister," they'd be saying. And hearing all this praise, Asta would then sneer to Yuno. "I'm pretty cool, aren't I?" "Shut up, I'm a prince too, Yuno would say. As Asta would then say, "Yeah, but I'm just awesome." The two would then start to mess around, with Gaja then thinking that it's good he still had friends, and him and the Guardians hate that they have to tell these boys about what, happened out of nowhere. Their lives have been shifted upside down from their perspective. And Yuno would then say, "Mr. Ralph, was it? Why am I here?" Yuno would ask, and Ralph would say, "It's to keep you safe. I feel ashamed to say that if we even took a step near the Spade Kingdom, we both die." "Just who are we up against?" Asta would ask, and Ralph would say, I don't think I even know how to describe it." A few moments later, after passing the little river, well, not little, but the two princes arrive and reach the steps of the Heart Kingdom castle, and as they reach the top, they walk forward to see little Petrica in her throne. She looks just like me, just with black hair," Asta would say in disbelief, as little Petrica would then stand out of her throne, and as she walks over, she has this air of royalty and just, she's just noble, she's just like that. But in a bizarre twist, she would then trip and fall until she rolls and reaches them, and Yuno would say, "What?" To the amazement of the two, a massive amount of magic would then start to gather, and Undine would form as she helps up little Petrica. "Seriously, be careful," she would say, and little Petrica would say, "Sorry." "A spirit? Just like me," Yuno would say, and Undine then lets down little Petrica and looks at Yuno thinking, "Oh, a spirit bearer." Little Petrica then, after getting up, then looks to her little brother and her. "So, you're my real family?" Little Petrica would then say, "Yes, but you don't have to accept it right away. I know this is a lot for you, both of you." Hearing this, Asta smiled and says, "Nice to meet you, big sis." And these words would move little Petrica to tears, as she has been waiting for these words for years. But Asta freaks out because he's not used to this kind of situation. And the same goes for Yuno, because to him, it's not just Asta's sister he's meeting. She's also the queen of this very kingdom. So it's a little bit bizarre. But Asta does what he usually does when their youngest brother started to cry and would hug her. "I'm sure just as surprised as I am." "Thank you for coming back," she would say. As Asta would say, "Yeah. This reunion would then be interrupted by an earthquake as the four can all sense abnormal amount of eerie mana, and Asta leaps into the air and flies out with little Petrica, and Undine following. As he flies out, Asta would then go into the air and be horrified by what he finds. What have they done? The kingdom is being attacked by the Dark Triad, and people have been under siege by the devil-possessed people. "Nice to meet you, your highness." In front of Asta then appears Dante, who would smile, saying, "You look just like her." Asta is pissed, and Dante can feel it just swelling up his mana. "Alright then, let's see." He then reaches his hand out and uses his magic, but as it hits Asta, it does nothing, making Dante surprised, so he tries again, but this time he gets pushed back himself by the pure power of Asta, who would then now burst with enough magic to even scare him. How dare you? Asta's Grimoire then flies out in front of him, and it shines as he then looks down to see that he has unlocked a new spell, and right in that moment, his body would shine as he starts to be covered by golden armor. So much mana, Dante would say, as in this instant, Asta loses the clover covering of his Grimoire, and it takes the form of a Heart Kingdom Grimoire, but it's a bit different, now having the appearance of a sort of stone tablet, but it was still golden. This is when little Pachika and the others come out, and they just see everything and are left in shock. Is he gonna be okay? You know what, ask? And Nandi would say, there's a reason why Asta is the prince of this kingdom. It's not just his blood, it's power. He has a lot of it. Little Pachika would say, well, I'm gonna do what I can. We need to help the spirit guardians and our people. Asta can handle him. You know, with that nod and summon Bell, and the battle begins. Meanwhile, above Asta would then ask Dante why he's even doing this. Because you have something we need. And Vanika wanted to visit your sister. Asta would then summon his pendant and ask if this is what he wanted, and Dante said yes. But it looks like this could be more fun than I thought. What about my sister? What did you just say? Asta would say. And Dante would simply smile as he would blitz Asta, appearing right in front of him with a gravity punch, but Asta catches it before he then gets stabbed in his side, and when he looks down to his side, he has a sword in his ribs. Tell me, Asta would utter, and Asta then pulls him in and punches him, sending him flying and piercing through the air, and as he is, going through the air, Dante cannot help but smile. How the hell is he a kid? He's then stopped and held by chains in place and looks to see he is just surrounded by gates, and as he looks forward, Asta is already attacking, having summoned a spear. Okay, let's get a bit more serious. He then enters a new state of power and releases 50% of his devildom, I guess you could say. But the gravity he forces onto the chains only make them tighten and burn him. Ah, what the? How are you? In this moment, Asta then throws the spear and it pierces his chest, leaving a gaping hole in him. Impossible. The chains then start to pull him apart, and he realizes he cannot mess around anymore, and he would go 100%, completely exploding with anger and causing the water and just the ground in the kingdom to shake and make all the devil-possessed people and, soldiers be astonished but also worried. I've never seen it before. Is he going all out, they be saying? And as far off in the kingdom, Zenon would use his power, would sense this power increase and look up to see the skies darkening before then looking back at Gaja. Your master seems to be more interesting than originally thought to be. And if you're wondering about Megicula, she is currently fighting the rest of the Guardians, and now you know who has joined. Even he can see they're losing badly, and even after he joined like into the fight, I mean, he lost very fast, and now they're just all like in a bad place. Like Vanika is very strong, or more so Megicula is very strong, and as they're losing, Vanika would say, "Oh come on, show a little resistance." From the ground, and start to come up steel spikes that extend and aim for everyone, and as they fly into the air, the spikes will simply elongate and attack. She's just toying with us. We need help, you know what thing. As back at the fight between Dante and Asta, Dante had managed to free himself just barely and had gone full power and attacked using multiple singularity attacks. And if you don't know what that is, they're basically just balls of gravity, and when it touches anything, they just blow it away and basically out of existence. But Asta would just fly towards him while cutting through these attacks, while switching through many weapons, before Dante once again is surrounded and stabbed from all sides. He spews blood. Stop it. Stop marking me. Asta would then say, then tell me about my sister. His screams are unheard as Dante's screams are unheard because, you know, Dante is very real about that not getting hurt part, but Asta doesn't really care and flies and slashes him over the head with an axe, which splits him in two, and then the weapons on him just disappear with Asta stopping himself and turning around. I would have been relentless, but this axe is special. I'm gonna kill this bastard, Asta would think. Dante then re-heals into one and would twist his neck to look back at Asta before then turning the rest of his body. Fine, just because I want to see you despair. He would then utter something inaudible to us, but Asta heard what would completely make him break. You bastards. Asta summons a katana and gets in a stance before then bursting with even more mana, and his Grimoire shines, with him then getting a new spell. Mana Zone. He blitzes Dante before then appearing in front of him. It was just a barrage of slashes with both an axe and a sword, and every time the katana cut, Dante disappeared. Every time the axe hit, Dante felt a very hit to his soul. That's right, the axe had the effect of messing with your soul, and Dante felt himself dying as he looked up to see a raging Asta just hacking away at him. That's what makes you human. Asta then reaches his heart and cuts through it entirely, and before long, he would disappear to nothing while screaming. Now for the rest of them. As the heart people are being attacked, they are then blinded by light from above, as their attackers would all be pierced by pure light, and they would scream while disappearing. All across the skies, gates would then fill the entire sky, and Zenon would have to block an attack, as well as Vanica. He can't have, she would think, as Yuno would then stand up saying, "That look on your face more than makes up for this loss." Yuno then starts laughing at her, as Vanica then tells him to shut up before hurling a steel spear at him, covered in blood this time. And the Guardians, to their surprise, would see that he actually dodges it. Protov would then say, "Wow, how did he do that? He's exhausted." Yuno would then say, "Bell, come back." Resummons Bell before then entering spirit dive form, leaving everyone shocked, as Yuno would then say, "I'll hold you off until he makes it here." Mana Zone. Yuno would then condense his magic and release a wind ray, but Vanica still easily dodges it. "You think you can lay a finger on me because your little power-up came in? Huh? You think you can beat me, a devil possessed?" Yuno would say, "No, but I don't need to beat you anymore." At this moment, Vanica is stabbed right in the heart from behind by a chain, and as she looks down at it, she's then pulled right into the sky and brought right along Zenon, who is already being held up and just pierced by many chains. Vanica is held up next, as she then looks up and she can just only see light, and Asta is shrouded in it, and in his golden armor, he just exudes like radiance. What is that magic, she would think. "Long live the prince," they would be saying, and these cheers would grow even more and make Asta smile as he summons a staff over and he waves it over the entire kingdom, casting a dome that starts to heal everyone down below. And as little Petrica sees it happen, she also feels something warm on her stomach. Undine then forms, seeing little Petrica crying, and she would ask, "What? This is a good moment. Stop being a crybaby." "No, it's gone. I think it's gone." Undine's eyes widen, and she would say, "This barrier, it doesn't just heal, it wards off curses? You have an amazing little brother." Little Petrica would then say, "He's gonna make a fine king one day. Well, much better than me anyways." After this, Asta killed Zenon, Vanica, and then him and Yuno and everyone just helped destroy everyone. They just destroyed the devil people, attacked the Spade Kingdom to free it. The Heart Kingdom is led by Asta, and well, Yuno just fights back to get back his own kingdom. And they just take back everything. They take them territories and announce the return of Yuno as the lost prince that had returned, just like they did with Asta. A week after this, we then find the Black Bulls at home, each doing their own thing, but while the others are just mainly lazing around, Noelle was outside practicing her magic, and she would be firing consecutive water dragons, destroying the forest ahead. After her fifth attack, she then took a breath and would clench her bracelet given to her by Asta. Noelle had a look of worry, wondering if Asta would ever even return, only to then be snapped out of this gaze by an explosion. A shocked Noelle then turns to see a bunch of dust coming from the base, and she ran in past the dust, and as she is blinded by it, she actually hears a familiar voice. "You lazy bastards, did you just stop doing anything?" Noelle then comes to find Asta restraining everyone with chain magic, and as she sees him, Asta would then turn to Noelle and waved. "Oh hey, how's it going?" Noelle was shocked as Mana would then yell for Asta to let him down. "Don't get overly confident, you little brat." Vanessa would then say, "I thought you weren't allowed to come back." Noelle would then say the same, wondering how he could be here, and Asta nervously scratches his chin. I'm visiting, I guess you could say." "That's definitely a lie," they would all think. Glosh would then say, "Let me down before I kill you." "You wouldn't be able to, but I'll let you down." "Alright, let's go." He then lands down and just releases everyone as he walks over to Noelle, and Noelle would ask, "Go where?" Asta would then hold his hand out, and in it would appear a bunch of papers from his gate, and as he even says, "Whether you like it or not, it's time to change the bulls." "You're not giving us a choice, are you?" Magna would ask, and Asta would say, "Nope, and today, we're all participating." As he says this, he snaps his fingers, and around Gray's big neck, a necklace appears, which makes her poof, and they would all hear something land, and the voice of a girl. As the smoke clears, the crew would then be shocked to see the true Gray. "Oh my god, is that you?" Vanessa would say, and Gray would then bring out her grimoire trying to transform back, but she cannot. What did you do to me?" And Asta would say, "That necklace restricts mana. We're gonna use it for training." On all their necks then appeared the necklaces as Asta would snap his fingers, but then Noelle's arm bracelet just disappears, which startles her. "Sorry about that," Asta would say, "but everyone needs to." Noelle, however, cuts him off, saying, "It's fine. I don't think I'll need it." Asta would then say, "Alright then, good. Friend wasn't here, so that's too bad, but let's go. Asta then holds his hand out, creating not only a gate, but a gate which connects to something. A gate portal, I guess you could say. And Asta then puts his hand through it, saying, it's gonna take us to a training ground. Come on. As Asta steps through, they all then follow, with Vanessa saying, I'm surprised you're coming, Gauche. He's a prince. I can use him to get presents from Marie, Gauche would say. And Charmy would then say, yeah, like Asta would ever give you money. They all then step through the portal and find themselves on a street. Where are we? Luck would ask. This is when from the surrounding streets, people will be saying hi to Asta in a super cheering manner. And Asta would say, hey guys, did you leave? One of the elders would ask. And Asta would say he went to the Clover Kingdom for a while. And the others then start to realize where they are. You brought us to the Heart Kingdom? Gauche would ask. And Asta then nods as he then said, this is where they were going to start the transformation. As for Yuno, when he returns to the Golden Dawn, he goes and meets his senpais, that being Klaus and Mimosa, who then tell the truth about his identity. My bad, guys. And they would all be in Yuno's room when they are told this. I'm not really surprised, Klaus would say, and Mimosa would say, yeah, you also have a spirit. Asta wasn't joking. Belle would then say, we should get ready for our date, and Yuno would say, I didn't agree to that. Belle then whines at this, saying he's a jerk, and she starts hitting him, which feels like nothing, but Yuno apologizes, causing her to stop. Fine. Why did you even come back here then? Belle would say. And Klaus would say, actually, yeah, why did you? No offense, but aside from us, everyone harbors evil intent towards you. Yuno would then stand up, saying, that will never change the fact that I am from the Golden Dawn. And I have you guys. Also, I'm gonna have to return. It is still my duty, but I wanted to see you guys again. This makes Klaus and Mimosa smile, as Mimosa then says maybe they should go practice together, and Yuno agrees, thinking that since that threatening fight, aside from that form, I've been on the cusp of something. We then cut back to Asta as he sits and watches everyone fight the Spirit Guardians, and saying they were having a hard time is an understatement, but the Guardians are not letting up. Yeah, maybe the magic necklaces were a bit much, Asta would think. As he says this, he would then get a feeling and summon his Grimoire, which floats in front of him and flips to show him he had a new weapon. An excited Asta then stands up as he opens a gate, which he then walks through. On the other side, he comes to what would be something I don't think I can even describe, but in simple terms, it is a dimension holding all of Asta's weapons. But much like the Clover Kingdom, holds their grimoires for a ceremony, it's like a library of sorts, and it is filled with a lot of magic. Also, it's just gold everywhere. Asta would then say, so, that's what it was. Quite a rebellious one, ain't ya? In its own little corner, Asta would see the 5-leaf Grimoire holding Libe, and his anti-magic was oozing, but luckily because Asta has so much potent magic, the anti-magic is abysmal, because Asta's like arcane, past arcane stage actually. He's just a boss. As he holds his hand out, the Grimoire then flies into his hand, and instantly his eyes would pulse, as he then closes and reopens them, and he is surrounded by darkness. Who are you? Libe would ask. Asta turns around, surrounded by this darkness, and would say, can we stop this little game? I know where you are. Asta then bursts with magic, blowing away the darkness to reveal a red space, and out of nothing would form the giant devil Libe. Libe comes out, however, looking stunned, as when he looked closely at Asta, he would then fly over, before then turning into his true little devil form. Are you their son? A devil, Asta would say, and an anti-magic one at that. Give me one reason why I shouldn't kill you. Libe then backs away, saying because he has no intention to fight. Believe it or not, I'm not like the other devils. I want to kill them all. Well, they're killed, so you're a bit late. Wait, what? Libe would say. Asta would then explain the little war they had, shocking Libe when he hears that Asta beat Lucifer's vessel with relative ease. Then what am I supposed to do? I promised them. Devils don't have parents, but those humans died because of me. I had to repay my debt. Asta sees Libe must have known their parents very long. That means including little Pechiga, and clearly he cares about them. And he then asks, "Want to talk about it? I'm guessing you've been locked in here for a few years. You need some company." Libe then looks to Asta and scratches his head, saying, "Look, I'm not getting all sappy with you. I simply owe those humans a debt." Asta then lifts an eyebrow to this, saying, "Yeah, sure, man. Just talk to me. I mean, why not? Seems like we have a bit in common, right?" Libe then takes a moment and says, "Sure. Where should I start?" After this, they talk for hours and come to actually find an interest in being around each other, and it's generally fun. So time skipped to about 3 weeks passing. The Black Bulls would keep training in the Heart Kingdom while also doing missions and just getting stronger. And Finro actually soon joins, and Yami does as well because he simply wanted to surpass his limits. And the Heart Kingdom was just fun because one of his members is loaded. I mean, that's just how Yami is, and that's why we love him. Gray gets a bit more outgoing and improves her magic and connection with her Black Bull members. Dorsch, despite keeping the same personality, does grow to someone like Asta, but Marie is still the only one he truly loves. So they actually go do some missions, and mostly because Asta forced them, they stopped acting like the bums that the kingdom thought that they were. And Vanessa even already has her fate magic and hasn't even visited her mother yet, so that's a huge power upgrade. As for Yuno, well, he is still rejected by the others because he is not a noble, because they're keeping the fact that he's a prince hidden for now. He really doesn't care about that because he has his real friends. Truth be told, Alec Dora tried to fight him by being a condescending dick to the point where he attacked Yuno and got his ass kicked, showing all the Golden Dawn members that Yuno is not to be messed with, and his Grimoire truly is not really a lie on his power. Like, he deserves that Grimoire for a reason. But though this makes them fear Yuno because he beat him and literally also told him to die because Yuno has a more violent personality in this, they can't help but respect his pure power. Soon that actually comes up a ceremony to reward the knights for their work, and also they're going to show rankings and all that, and simply just shower everyone with praise. The streets will be filled with lights, people, and food, and the night sky only makes everything more magical. The Black Bulls are just messing around, honestly, and Asta is playing with the kids of the orphanage who came out to play and enjoy themselves. This is when Julius steps up on the stage, accompanied by Marx, his assistant. Sorry for making you wait, folks. Everyone then cheers at the presence of Julius, who then calms them down before then saying, "Thank you all so much for attending. I think tonight's results will really shock you." But what does he mean? Is there a new record, people will be thinking? As their eyes are all on him, he then introduces the captains, who then all walk up and everyone cheers for them. Like usual, Yami is not on stage, he's drinking, he's having fun, he's not that type of person. And Julius would then say, "Alright now, let's see the results." Julius then shows all the places from lowest to second place score, to which, to everyone's shock, is not, anyone else but the Golden Dawn themselves, while the Black Bulls are in first place. What? The crowd would yell, as they are all shocked, with even the Black Bulls being dumbfounded, as one of the kids then tugs on Asta's pants, asking, "Hey, aren't you part of the Black Bulls?" And Asta looks down at the kid as he ruffles his hair, saying, "Yep, pretty awesome, right?" Julius then says, however, despite this upset, the Golden Dawn has not disappointed, with their newcomer rising them through the ranks. "Come out, Yuno." Yuno would then walk out with Belle at his side, setting all sights on him. Whether it's about his good looks and the fact that he has a spirit, he's just simply taking the spotlight. Julius would then say, "And up next, the newcomer of the Black Bulls. Let's give it up for Asta. You might recognize him as the one who created the giant gate, which saved our kingdom from those pesky undead." "Oh, he's from the Bulls? Where is he? We gotta see him now," the people will be saying, as Yami then walks up behind Asta, just as he picks him up, saying, "Oi, get over there already." He then throws Asta towards the stage and into the air, and when he flies over the crowd, he has a face of anger. "Why would you throw me?" he would yell, as he then flips and slams down on the platform using nothing but physical strength before then standing straight. "Seriously, you're a troublesome captain, you know that?" Everyone is enamored with Asta, as they can just sense the change in the air when he showed up, and he is also quite the looker. I just had to put that in because they're nobles and they got that shit, Julius then clears his throat, saying, "Now, contrary to certain believe it or not, these two are princes." As the Golden Dawn members in the crowd hear this, they would be shocked, as they cannot believe what they're hearing. And Julius would say, "Asta hails from the Heart Kingdom, and from Hey!" They would all hear, as Asta would scream, cutting off Julius, putting all attention on him, and he would say, "It doesn't matter what her status is." The crowd would get confused by this, as their way of thinking just differs from his. But that's complete blasphemy. He should take pride in being a prince. No commoner could ever compare to a noble. Asta, as he hears all this mumbling, would then get pissed, saying, "Ever heard of the captain of my squad? Can any of you here say my captain Yami is not as strong as your so-called other precious knights?" However, they still cannot change their views hearing this, believing that despite having an eerie type of magic, Yami's magic is still special, so that's the only reason why he's made it this far. And this just takes off with Asta and and Asta would just yell, "Oi, Luck, blast me." Luck, as he hears his name being called and being asked by Asta to attack, he turns with a smile as he jumps towards Asta, to the shock of everyone, and as he flies towards him, he will release the ridiculous amount of magic in one lightning burst that would almost blow everyone away. But then Asta summons a katana and cuts through it, letting it just be dispersed before Luck then lands next to Asta. Incredible! What house does he come from? The people will be saying. And Asta would then say, my friend Luck here is as common as they come. See? The crowd is left in complete shock to learn this, as Julius then says he can attest to this, and Luck was born from a commoner mother. So this is the true power of the Black Bulls? I just thought they were hooligans, the people would be saying, and slowly their thoughts would change at the incredible display of Luck, who does not even look out of breath after using all this magic, and they instead start to cheer to the surprise of Luck. Wow, we should do this more often, Luck would say, and Asta would ask, the fighting or messing with crowds? We can do both. He then waves to who waves back, and then says, hey, somehow I'm still going to become the Wizard King, In your dreams, that's going to be me, Asta would say. As the three soak in the applause, we have a huge time skip. Asta and go to become captains of their own squads. The Diamond Kingdom is taken care of by the Heart Kingdom because they're just honestly too much of a threat and they just mess with everyone. And while Asta and are captains, they're still rulers, with partially working with Asta to just, help his kingdom. And Asta also helps his sister rule the Heart Kingdom. Nero soon meets Asta face to face and they actually talk, and they gather the stones so she can meet Lumiere and say goodbye. But unfortunately, she cannot go with him. And also the elf reincarnations were killed by the Dark Triad. If I didn't, make that obvious. They killed them. Yeah. So there's no arc for that. The Hodge orphanage eventually are also visited by and Asta, who tell them the truth, and that shocks them a bit. But considering how they've known them, they also thought it could be possible, so it's not that surprising. Noel stays with Asta as his vice captain and grows to become super strong, having her water armor. She's just strong as fuck. And the other Black Bulls would stay with Asta to create the new squad named Babylon. So they're the Babylon Magic Knights. And this, of course, includes Henry, who would be uncursed by Asta and become able to talk normally and just interact with everyone without sucking their magic. And he also grows in power and finally cuts all his hair. Also, all the Babylon members have a special item tailored to their magic, but they only appear when they need them, and they basically all have bracelets on them, but they can transform to the actual item, like, the item's true form. Also takes the spot from Vengeance, and becomes captain, like I said, and he actually gains respect from everyone, like in the original, even Langris and Alec-Dora, not just through sheer strength, but through, like new actual respect. Like, he just shows them why he deserves to be followed. And aside from Asta, is the only person in the world who also possesses two grimoires. The other grimoire is Libe's grimoire, and if you're wondering how Asta can use it, well, Asta's little realm where he has all his weapons, if there's a weapon in there, he can use it. It doesn't matter. So he basically has two types of magic, his normal magic and his anti-magic, which is pretty powerful. But the existence of, Libe was a little bit hard to get out, but eventually people just accepted it because, well, it's Asta and he commands respect and ain't nobody gonna mess with him anyway. The nobles tried to do a trial, but he also just shut that shit down. I'm not gonna go into details. You know what would happen, alright? Y'all know. But yeah, also has a second grimoire from the manga, so, spoilers, like I said. Well, I didn't tell you that in the beginning of this video, but I'll probably put up a little spoiler thing just to warn y'all. But yeah, he has two grimoires. He has star magic and wind magic. So this all happens in the span of 13 years as we cut to Nash waking up in his room. And as he sits up, he would just yawn. And as he does, Asta barges in, opening the door. Get up, we have work to do. Well, not work, something exciting is happening. Nash would then ask, do you have to do that? By the way, this is the Nash that always bothered Asta and has fire magic. And Asta would say, yep. Also, seriously, you need to get up. I think Luck and Magna are about to fight again. They're probably going to destroy the forest. We need to watch. Nash would then get out of bed saying, Grace Senpai's going to have to rebuild all of that, right? Nox Senpai's definitely going to chew your head off after. Asta would say, I'll risk it. We need to have more moments like this, The two then head outside to meet the Babylon members, with Vanessa then turning as she says, oh, you're just in time. It's starting again. As she says this, a huge spurt of lightning and fire burst out from the forest, blowing back to hit everyone. And Luck and Magna are fighting their usual battles. They do this sometimes just to test their powers and just have fun. And Ash would say, screw it. Magna Senpai, this will be your 10th loss if you lose, so don't let this go on. Chomi would then say, whoever wins gets to have cookies. And everyone starts to cheer for them and they're just enjoying themselves. But this brings us to the end of the story. I hope you enjoyed this movie. And thank you so much for 19K. This is your special I am Prince of What Ifs, and I hope you just enjoy the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell to stay updated on all my videos, and I just hope you enjoy the movie. I really hope you enjoy this movie. It was really, really long to write, but even though actually, I'm going to say something. I don't think I'm ever going to do a Black Clover movie again. This is not because I hate Black Clover. I just don't like doing movies because I had to, as you noticed, squish everything up. Like, I didn't give more room to other characters, and it was just rushed. So I will not be doing this again. For MHA What Ifs, that's possible because MHA can be simple. Again, no disrespect to MHA, but the formats are just different, you know? There's a lot of characters in Black Clover, and I don't want to disrespect them by just not focusing on them. So yeah, this will not happen again with Black Clover, but I will do Black Clover series in parts, and I will enjoy myself. All right, I'm gonna go. Y'all stay safe, all of that, and peace.